about getting after things when they're controversial, but they didn't get after this. And Bannon does have a history. He did say it was the home for the alt-right, and that matters, Ken.
Right, but whatever you want to assign to him, you certainly can't assign what Breitbart is doing now while
Why?
he's
We're
not there.
No. We're assigning what Breitbart previously
Virginia.
did.
So, you know, look, one of the problems with these hate groups like this is they assume mantles that start to pollute everything around it and everything that it touches. And understandably, for people who are part of that, that's the case. But look, they're white supremacists, there were neo-Nazis, this all turned violent. And frankly, I think they wanted it to turn violent. I think they wanted the kind of attention they're getting now. That was
how white
part
supremacists
of
operate,
their
yes.
hopes. And that's right. And look at how many people were there. There were about 1,000 people, if police estimates are right, that came from all over the country to participate in this. And there were far more than that protesting, objecting, etc. And I think that's more representational of America. It certainly is of Virginia. And as you notice with the arrests that were made, most of them were from out of state.
Right.
There's only one Virginian arrested.
Right. So, Simone, go ahead.
This was attracting trash from all over the place.
Let me be clear. Let me be very clear. What happened Friday, Saturday in Charlottesville was a direct result of folks being upset that a statue, a monument of the Confederacy, was going to come down. When President Trump took the podium on Saturday, a woman was dead. She was murdered by white supremacists, neo-Nazis. He did not use those words, that terminology. You have white supremacist, neo-Nazi sympathizers apparently in the White House, and Sebastian Gorka and Steve Bannon. This is not just rhetoric. This is very real for people all over America. And I would suggest
that's an outrageous
that we have
overstatement.
to. That is not an outrageous overstatement. If you know what? In Germany, wait, Chris, in Germany, there are no statues and monuments of Nazi soldiers. Children do not go to schools named after Nazi generals. But in the United States of America, our children walk through parks, walk down streets, and go to schools named after generals of the Confederacy, folks who, if in present day, took up arms against the government, would be considered treasonous because they felt it was their right to own people that looked like me in this country because it benefited them economically. That's what this is about. And so there is no overstatement here. These are the facts.
And if we would like to, that's
what the Robert E. Lee said. That's what they were marching for.
A bunch of racists and neo-Nazis to get together. That was a local blogger who got a permit. This from Ohio cares about Robert E. Lee. Nobody from Ohio cares about Robert E. Lee.
Are you really going to dismiss this as though this is not bigger and more serious than just Charlottesville? Charlottesville is an egregious symptom of what is wrong with parts of all over America. I'm not jumping to conclusions, sir. I'm being factual, and you are dismissing it. And you know, perhaps if you would actually speak to the heart of these things, we could get to the bottom of some of it.
Ken, hold on a second. Simone, let's get a point of clarification. Ken, what are you disagreeing with exactly? Simone's argument is basically that, you know what white supremacists are about. You know what Robert E. Lee evokes. That's what they used for the basis for coming together. What is your point of disagreement exactly?
Right. Well, my point of disagreement is that that was an excuse to bring these groups together. The local blogger who got the permit to protest the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue then blew this up. That was an excuse. Look at even how they got the permit. And can I finish, Simone? Will you just shut up for a minute and let me finish?
Pardon me, sir. You don't get to tell me to shut up on national television.
Hold on.
And so then all these
under no circumstances do you get to speak to me in that matter. You should exhibit some decorum.
Ken, stay civil. Hold on, guys. Both of you stop for a second. Simone, Ken, Simone, Ken and Simone, hold on a second. You need a reset. You need a reset. Ken, you don't want to use language like that when you're talking to Simone. You can disagree, but you don't talk like that on this show. You know better than that, Ken.
I keep getting interrupted.
I know, but Ken, we don't tell people to shut up on this show. I know, but Ken, you can stand up for yourself and still be civil. That's not how you are.
When they keep interrupting you.
You let me do your job. I'll give you both chances. No, but Simone, I apologize for that. We don't talk to people like that on this show. And Ken, I know you don't talk to people like that. And I know you don't mean to insult somebody like that on this show. Would you like to say that for yourself?
Of course not, but I can't just be walked over for over and over and over. Look, let's be really clear here that step one, you had a local blogger protesting the removal of a Confederate statue. That guy was also connected, it looks like, to these outside groups. That permit was an excuse to bring these people in. And they came in from all over the country, as the arrests show. You know, they were arrested mostly outside. There was only one Virginian I know of arrested. All the others were from outside Virginia. This was a gathering of hate groups. That's what it was. And they can define themselves however they want. They're all outrageous, ridiculous. And this guy was essentially a domestic terrorist.
Right, but you don't deny, but you're not disagreeing with the idea that Robert E. Lee is emblematic of a hatred that is of particular sensitivity and pain to the African-American community. You don't deny that.
Of course I don't deny that.
Because that's what started the confusion. That's all. That's what started the confusion, and it needed a point of clarification.
Where I start to have a problem, Chris, is that when you want to go ahead and say someone like Steve Bannon buys in completely to all of this, and that's the advice President Trump is getting, that just goes way, way too far.
Then why wouldn't he name the groups then, Ken? Help me understand how you arrive at that conclusion.
Yeah, Noel, look, this president defies understanding on my part. So I fully expect, let me lay out my expectations for a president. I expect this week, as we've now gotten out of a weekend and into the week, I expect to see him making stronger statements like the vice president did. I expect to see that. I expect to see that progression, especially as they learn more facts from the ground, as we did around midnight.
But you don't need to know any more about this.
And you know about the driver.
Yeah, but Ken, I got to tell you, the analogy to what the previous president did.
Could he have said more? Of course he could.
Well, I mean, but that's the point. I mean, it took you 11 minutes to get to that point.
To equate them, Chris. The point wasn't to equate them, Chris. It was to point out the escalation in the language a president uses when you've got a
right, but what I'm
like
saying
this.
is when there's this rush to draw equivalence and defense and protection because of what happened with Obama. I hear it on the show all the time, and there's plenty to criticize the past administration for. But what happened with Dylan Roof, you know, when you don't know what's going on, you say, we don't know what's going on, but we're going to get to the end of it. I get being measured. That's not what happened here. He had over a day. We knew what happened. We knew someone was dead. We knew who they had in custody. We knew who the groups were. There was no reason to offer anything vague as a way of being measured, Ken. It just, that doesn't make sense logically.
I think, Chris, the most important thing you mentioned there was the equivalence. I think the thing that the president has to wipe off the board is the notion that there's any equivalence between these hate groups and anybody else he might have been referencing. And that is on him this week. He's going to have to do that. He's going to have to do it himself. I think that's critically important in a situation like this going forward. And that's on him. We all know that he operates somewhat independently, even of his own staff, and that's his burden as we start the week.
Simone, give me a last word.
Chris, again, I believe we need to hear from the President of the United States today. We need to hear him say the words white supremacy, KKK, neo-Nazis, and then we need actions to follow up with those words. We need him to reverse the policy change that the United States of America no longer is looking at white supremacists in our counterterrorism program. He needs to remove the white supremacists from around him, white supremacist sympathizers. That is Steve Bannon and Gorka. And I would posit that people in America clearly need to get a history lesson, such as Mr. Cuchinlli on this program. Thank you.
All right. Let's just remember something else here. One of the things that you do when you see hate is you condemn it. The other thing that's just as important is to counter it. That's why we use civil discussion on this show. And I know you both want that when you're at your best. There is no need for anything other than that on this program.
Well, I'm still waiting for my apology from Mr. Cuchinlli for telling me to really shut up on national television.
And when you sweep in, and Chris, one of the problems with it,
if this isn't an apology, Mr. Cuchinlli, I'm not sure what else you have to say.
If people use them to smear others, like you've heard here during the discussion,
Ken, I hear you.
It makes it harder to have a civil discussion.
I hear you, but still.
Has said he curated the platform
Let's focus on
of
the evil folks, the neo-Nazis and the KKK and those folks.
Literally said on Breitbart Daily.
All right, look, I didn't want to get us back in. I didn't want to get us back into the discussion. But what I was giving you a chance to do, Ken, was apologize for the language you used to Simone Sanders. Do you want to do that?
I don't think he does.
Let him answer for himself.
I'll apologize for shut up, and I'll accept her apology for interrupting me.
I don't have an apology for you.
All right.
I don't have an apology for you. Thank you for having me today, Chris.
All right, let's leave it there.
I don't have one for you.
Civil discussion is always the appropriate counter to hate. Both of you, thank you for being on New Day.